Super cool radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the first interview for Super Cool Radio for 2025. I'm your host, always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have an awesome guest joining me at this time who I'm very excited to have on the podcast. She is the guitarist and vocalist for LA-based punk band Frankie and The Studs. She's also the vocalist for underground rock tribute band the Gormandizers. Please welcome Frankie Clarke.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for stopping by Super Cool Radio. I know we got a lot to discuss, obviously, with the new album, Life's a Glitch, plus so much more as well.
Hell yeah.
So this is probably going to be the most challenging question I asked because, well, it's music related, but, you know, obviously with a twist. So I'm curious for you, what has been the best concert you've attended and the best concert you have performed at?
Oh, okay. So the best concert I've attended was probably Kiss when I was 10 years old. It completely blew my mind and made me get into this wild circus that I'm in now. But also my favorite concert that I've ever played, and probably it's up there with attended as well, is when I played with a band called The Long Shot, which was fronted by Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day, and we played in Seattle, and it was just the wildest show. And as a fan, as an audience member, and as someone that was playing, it was just so much fun, and I like relived that show in my head all the time.
Well, it sounds like an awesome time because not only you got to, you know, watch an awesome band, but you also got to perform, you know, open for them. That sounds like an incredible experience.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was like, if I wasn't playing this show, I would be at every single one of these shows. Like, I would be following along and going to all the different cities.
Oh, for sure. So have you seen Green Day live?
I have. But you know what's funny is I've actually never seen them in like a big arena setting. I've always gone to like when they do like secret shows, like I try and find those. And I went to the Whiskey when they played there, which was insane. But it's funny because I think the biggest show I saw them at was when they had released American Idiot, and that still wasn't even like a big arena show, but they played the whole album from top to bottom, which was amazing. And then that was like in 2005, I think. So then I saw them last year at the Echoplex, and they played all of American Idiot top to bottom and Dookie, and that was incredible. I had tears in my eyes the whole time.
That sounds another just incredible show as well.
Yeah.
I have not gotten to see the opportunity to see them live. I do really want to because I've obviously
really?
heard their. Yeah, I haven't yet. Mostly just because when they do these bigger tours, it is, you know, the tickets are a little bit more pricey. So
Exactly.
hopefully at some point I do want to see them live at some point.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to go see them this past tour, but every time they were in a city near me, we were also playing with the Gormandizers. So I missed every show that was somewhat in proximity to us. And I was so bummed because I'd love to see them on an arena stage with like all the pyro and all the crazy, you know, production.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the closest one was like Wrigley Field in Chicago. It's not too far away from me, so like I wanted to see them there, but yeah, I wasn't able to. But I think just a cool like baseball setting like that, like a baseball stadium, would be just so cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But no, I do want to shift gears a little bit because obviously I got to focus on the new album, Life's a Glitch. I have my CD copy right here. So
you got the bonus tracks.
I did.
Nice.
So like I'm curious, so like how, before we start talking about the music, so Life's a Glitch, how'd that title come about?
So my best friend and I have this ongoing joke that our lives are always in parallel, and the same weird things will happen to us at the same time, or whenever we're together, like something weird will happen. It'll be like, it's a glitch. It's the glitch. We're always like texting each other and like, oh, this just happened to me. It's the glitch. And one day I was just thinking about that, and I was like, life's a glitch, kind of like life's a bitch. And even the name Frankie and the Studs is a double entendre, because it's like a stud, like it could be a stud on your leather jacket, or like a stud, like an attractive person. So I was like, it kind of works with the whole vibe. And also because this album took so long to put together, and it was because of all these glitches in life. So it's kind of like our Frankie and the Studs thesis, life's a glitch.
All right, I really like that. So I'm curious. Obviously, you mentioned that the glitches that were along with producing this album. So I'm curious, what was like the biggest challenge you guys faced with this album?
Well, it's funny because this album is really just a compilation of songs that we've put out over the years, and as well as songs that we haven't. And I wrote during COVID. Like, we actually signed our first record deal. I think it was like March 2020, around that time. So right in the midst of COVID. And so like nothing really happened with that. And, which is horrible timing. And, you know, just life, so many things going on. And, I felt like it never felt like the right time to release an album. And then I got approached by, his name is Tom. He runs Deadbeat Records, and he hit me up and he was like, I saw in an interview that you said that you have all these songs in the can and you haven't released them. Would you want to put them on an album and put them out? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, this will push us to put out our debut album that's been so long in the making. And so I sent him some of the songs that I had in the can, and he picked the ones that he liked, and we worked together on that. And we re-recorded them all at my dad's studio. And then we just added some of the songs that we had already released, and we're like, all right, I think we got an album here.
Well, I very much enjoy it, from the first track to the final track. I really dig, because like obviously it like stays in like that kind of punk rock and roll vibe, but then there like you throw in some a little different like elements and like some different like kind of elements of genres kind of throughout this. My favorite is "Fuck This Shit," because like I've been listening to that song because like my work week just sucked this week, so like that's kind of how I felt. So I was like, man, that's like the perfect like sum of how I feel right now.
Yeah, we're like, I think that song is the working class anthem, as we call it.
Exactly. And I was feeling
that
it.
way. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just so relatable too, with like some of the themes and topics like discussed in the album. Plus, you got some real like rock and roll bangers in there as well.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm glad that resonated with you.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, definitely after this week. So, but yeah. I'm doing fine now. I'm fine now.
Good. I'm glad.
So I'm curious though, obviously with releasing like new music or a new album. So like, for me, when I release like a new video, new like podcast, there's always part of me that thinks like, are people gonna like it? Are people gonna care? Do you have any of those like similar feelings when you release new music?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that's maybe even what's hindered me from releasing a lot of things over the years, is I care so much what people think. And it's something I've been trying to rewire in my brain, but I'm like, I've always been so conscious. I'm like, I don't know if people are gonna like that. But then really at the end of the day, it's like, do you like it? Are you proud of it? And that's kind of what I asked myself when I was like, am I proud to release this? Yes. Then who cares? As long as I'm happy with it and I'm proud of it, it doesn't really matter. I mean, of course I want people to resonate with it and to like it, but as long as you're proud of it, I think that's what really matters.
Oh, I think so. And especially that was for me when I was first, doing this podcast. Now 6 years later, obviously I have a different kind of feelings about stuff. But like when I was always so like critical of myself, like, oh, I didn't do this right, or like I should have elaborated on this, or I just sounded like an idiot here. So like you notice those things, and like I was always super hard on myself. So now like I feel more like relaxed when I do stuff, and like if people like it, awesome. If people don't, I mean, it's cool too. Like if not everyone's gonna like everything I do, similar with the music release, but it's always cool when people gravitate towards the content and music you create.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's always really exciting. Like if people come to the show and they start singing "fuck this shit" with us, like it makes my whole it makes my whole night. It's so awesome.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
But I do also like talking about the live performance side. So like I'm curious. So like I saw it, I believe it was the end of last year. I want to say mid-December. So you guys had the opportunity to perform in the UK and Europe. So like, how was that experience?
It was awesome. We actually had gone over to Italy before, I think 2022. So this was our first time returning since then. And I'm always excited just to get out of town and play shows outside of LA because we play so much here. So I think people are a little like, all right, I've seen them, you know? So it's exciting to go to a new place and have a new energy. And especially I love Europe. I love the UK, and we got to play. I think my favorite show was we got to play in Scotland, in Edinburgh, at a place called Bannerman's. And Edinburgh is just an amazing city. Like I said, I'd never been before, and it was just like real life Harry Potter, and just so goth and looked like a like it was just so cool. Every corner was some like amazing, insane gothic church or building, and I just found it to be really inspiring to just get out of the city and see new things and meet new people, talk to people, and yeah, I had a great time.
Well, I'm really glad to hear. I saw some photos from the shows. It looked like an incredible time. So, like for you, do you is it a different experience to like perform like outside of the U.S., like in other countries, in Europe and the UK?
It is, yeah, it is different. I think especially in Italy, I think they get excited when American bands come to play there, which is cool. Like even if they've never heard of you, they'll come out because they're like, "Oh, I heard there's this American band in town," and they'll come to your show, and that's cool. And actually, my bass player Lizzie, she's Italian, so she's the one that kind of helps organize these shows in Europe, and so it's always fun to have her with us too. She can be our translator and show us all the good food.
That is definitely a big plus to have.
Yeah.
So like with performing in the other countries, has there been like a favorite venue, like non-US based venue that you performed at?
I think Bannerman's actually became my favorite. It's just such a cool spot. It's really like you can tell haunted. There's a lot of history there. And then Christian, who booked us, he's super cool and was really an amazing host. And yeah, I love Bannerman's is my favorite international club we played at so far.
Nice. All right, so how about for American based? Do you have any favorite venues you've performed at?
I feel like there's a tough one. There's so many good ones, but one of my bucket list venues that we just crossed off of our bucket list like 2 years ago, I think now, is the Troubadour. I'd always really wanted to play the Troubadour just because of the history and being an LA native. It meant a lot to me to be able to play there. So when we did that, I was like, all right, I feel like we're doing something.
And unfortunately I've never made it out to the LA venues, but I've heard that they're so cool and they're always just so unique that each venue just has its own unique history to it.
Yeah, yeah, they all have they all bring a totally different vibe. But yeah, we played the Whiskey, we played the Roxy Viper Room, and then I was just like, we got to play the Troubadour, and then it finally happened. We got to play there with Glenn Matlock, which was really awesome from the Sex
Oh,
Pistols.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
nice. Oh, I bet
yeah.
that was probably an awesome show.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. I love Glenn. I'm a huge fan.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So for you, so before like performing on stage, do you like prepare differently to like record music compared to performing live?
Um, that's a good question. I feel like I kind of try and embody the same feeling as I do when I'm going on stage as I'm going into the studio. And so I try to get like in that mindset like I'm about to go perform when I'm going in the studio, just because I love performing and I want that to translate in live recordings as well. And that's something I learned over the past few years, and working with different producers have been like, we want the like stage Frankie to come out. How do we make her come out? because sometimes you're in a studio, you feel like a little self-conscious and weird, and like you can hear yourself back, and it's like, oh god. So I do try and just get in that mindset before of like, all right, I'm about to get on stage.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's always different when you don't have like a crowd around you.
Yeah.
So you have because people build off the crowd and feed off the crowd. Like I work in live entertainment for a baseball stadium, and it's when unfortunately the early games there's like no one here. It's 32 degrees here. Like it's hard to actually enjoy what you're doing if there's not people. There's no energy there. It's hard. At least for me, I find it more difficult.
Oh yeah, and definitely during COVID, that was a weird thing too, because we were doing like a lot of live streams and things like that, and you're like having to perform like there's an audience, but you don't see an audience, even though people are watching online. So you kind of have to like find that energy from within.
Oh, for sure. So I know it was like really difficult for like me when I first started with that, but like how about for you? Like how was it finding that energy?
It was a bit of a challenge, just because, like you said, I feed so much off of what the crowd gives us. And so I was just kind of trying to tap into the songs and like put myself in the mindset of when I wrote the songs or what I was feeling. And then and that kind of like helped with even now performing and not just like getting into a mode of like, all right, I'm on stage, but like grounding yourself in the music and, what you're trying to convey. So it was helpful in a way.
Oh no, for sure. Like when I approach, especially like when I work like baseball games like that, if there's not that many people there, I was like, I'm gonna try something different to see like what reactions I do get. Because like to me, if I start getting reactions, then like I know if there's more people here when there's more tickets sold, like I can probably do this and it'll work. So That's kind of how I approach. Like I try different things and try to experiment. But no, it's definitely a very different experience. But I'm also curious, so for you with like a set list when you perform shows, do you try to like change up like which song goes where? Do you try to include different songs? Like how do you build a set list for Frankie and the Studs?
Yeah, I do. I try and be mindful. I'll try different things, and I try to be mindful of the pacing a lot of times. Like I'll be like, all right, so we're gonna start with like 3 hard and fast songs, and then we'll play some mid-tempo and maybe pick it up again, maybe throw in a slower song and then end on a high note. And that's kind of usually like how I think of the narrative, I guess, of the set list. And but I definitely like to sometimes I'll throw in a new song and we'll play it live and be like, well, that song didn't really work. People didn't really vibe with it. Or we'll be like, oh wow, I didn't realize that song was going to translate as well live as I thought. Like an example of that is we have a song called Drain Me, and that was a song that we recorded and wrote during lockdown. So it was very much, we were experimenting with different sounds and getting a little weird. And I think it was just the time for that. It was like, why the hell not? We have so much time on our hands. Let's try and do something different. And so then we recorded it. And then when it came to, we didn't know if we would ever even be able to play that song live. And then when it came down to it, we're like, we should try and play it live and see what happens. And we completely, not rearranged, but we have a different way of playing it live than the recording. And we're like, wow, I didn't realize that song works as well live as it does. Who knew? And now we're kind of like, maybe we should do a live version of the song because it does feel so different.
It's funny you mentioned Drain Me. That was actually the first song I heard by Frankie and the Studs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what kind of got me into the band. And then I was like, oh, I want to. Yeah, but I really like it because it is very different from a lot of your other catalog because it's got, I don't know, it's got a very different just vibe to it, some different, musical elements in there. And I just thought it just sounded so cool. It's actually like one of my workout songs now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That and Run, those are like the two like I definitely work out to.
Nice.
But so I'm curious, so with the set list, do you have a favorite song to perform live?
Yeah, my favorite song is probably Victim is one of my favorite songs to play live. And that's just, I think, because like we were talking about connecting with people, and I feel like that is a song where like when I play it, I feel really connected to the song, and I feel like you can see other people like listening to the lyrics and connecting with it as well. So I always enjoy playing that. But then also, of course, fuck this shit, because we turn it into a sing-along. And that's always a fun time.
Oh, I bet. So it's such easy words that I think like everyone has wanted to say to somebody in their life anyway. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I could definitely see a crowd getting into that.
Yeah, it was funny because in Italy, I turned to Lizzie and I was like, I don't know how to like talk to the crowd because I don't know if they understand me, but I'm gonna try and get them to sing "fuck this shit." Maybe that's something that. And she was like, just talk to them, whatever. I'm sure they understand. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna teach you guys some English real quick. We're gonna do "fuck this shit," "fuck you," "I quit." And we had like a little lesson. And went, all right, cool. Now let's sing along. And they sang along.
Oh, nice. So the crowd participated.
Yeah, they participated. They did.
Oh, that's awesome. See, that's just so cool, especially just in a different country to have, still the crowd is still able to get into it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it was super fun.
I bet. So, but now I also did want to highlight, so the Gormandizers, who I mentioned in the intro. So, like, I'm curious. Obviously, it's a underground rock tribute band. So, do you approach that band differently compared to Frankie and the Studs?
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of the music that we play with the Gormandizers is the music that are like my biggest influences for Frankie and the Studs. So it felt very like natural to transition into that. And it's cool too because I feel like I know these songs, but I've never had to learn the songs, like learn all of the lyrics and learn the structures. But it kind of is, it helps you with songwriting too, because you're like, oh, these are all these songs I love, and you can deconstruct them and think of like, oh, I can write a song like that. But yeah, it started just because I was trying to think of an idea, a tribute band or cover band idea that I hadn't seen yet, and it just came to me that I was like, I've always wanted to go to CBGB. That was like, I wish I could go back in time and just go see the Ramones at CBGB in the 70s. And I was like, I'd love to recreate that for people. And I haven't really, there's Ramones tribute bands, obviously Blondie tribute bands, but I'd love for somebody to put it all together and make like a CBGB night and recreate that energy. So I was like, we should do that. And I told it's really, we're the same band. We have another bass player who doesn't play with the Studs, but his name's Gabe Maska. He plays bass with us. And then Lizzie in the Studs plays rhythm guitar, and Frank from the Studs plays lead guitar, and then Nick plays drums. And we all rotate singing, which is really fun too. So when I'm not on stage, I'm usually doing an outfit change. And then I'll come back as like Debbie Harry, or I'll come back and do like a Dead Boys inspired outfit or whatever. But it's just a lot of fun, and it's something cool to do because sometimes, you don't want to play too much as the Studs. I don't want to oversaturate and play too much in LA. So, but I want to always be playing. So it's kind of another thing to do to like keep your chops up and keep playing.
Oh, for sure, especially to do something just a little bit different with it as well. And I think it's really awesome to include, it's not just a tribute to one band, it's a tribute to like the whole just vibe of CBGBs, include some awesome music. I saw like you got Iggy Pop, you got Dead Boys, Ramones, Blondie, all of those great bands like in the set list.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I hope that my vision, my dream for it is that we turn it into like a whole show, and we can have like a stage that looks like CBGB and do something really fun with it and big. But yeah, and we just started it last March, so it's still pretty new.
Yeah, not even a year.
Not even a year. Yeah.
So I'm curious, do you have a favorite song in the Gormandizers set list to perform?
Yes, definitely Sonic Reducer by Dead Boys. That one is just, it always gets me. It gets me hyped. It's really fun.
All right, well, yeah, Dead Boys is one of my favorite bands. I actually had the opportunity to interview them a couple years ago, which was
cool.
So cool. And the coolest moment out of that was afterwards, like Cheetah Chrome said that I was a great interviewer. And I was like, that is so cool to hear. Just because coming from a music legend like him, like that is just one of my like top 5 favorite moments.
That's super rad. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. Love the Dead Boys. They're just so cool. So
me too. Yeah. Just the energy of those recordings. You can like feel it. It's so great.
Oh yeah, and just the guitar work, the vocal, just everything about them. They're just so rad too. They just have that presence and aura about them.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They're great. It's always my favorite. And also I love when we play Buzzcocks. We do Ever Fallen in Love, and that one is so much fun too.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. So I'm curious, like with the crowd energy. So like are people getting into it? Like, how is it a little bit different from like original music show, or is it like just people just as though into it with the tribute stuff?
It's different. You know, we were saying that we're like, oh, it's so interesting to see people like singing along to everything because we play songs that they already know. So I mean, it is definitely different because you're like, oh, I know people are gonna like these. They like these songs. So it's a little bit of like. I don't want to say it's less pressure because it almost feels like more pressure to do the songs justice too, because you don't want to like, you don't want to fuck it up.
Oh, for sure. Especially with some of the more, the well-known songs, like people are going to know if you mess it up. Like it's
yeah.
obvious.
The first show, I was so nervous and I was like, I'm like way more nervous for this show than any Studs show. And it was just because I've had all these lyrics in my head of like, I don't want to fuck this up. Everyone's going to know. They're going to notice.
How'd you do?
I loved some lyrics, but I made it through.
Okay.
It's really just nerves. That's what gets in the way because you know the lyrics, but it's just if you trip yourself up, then you're like, oh, I flubbed that.
It's so funny, like when you could do you could practice and like everything goes great, and then you're in front of a crowd, and then just it happens. Your
mind just goes blank. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now, as we're starting to close this interview out, just got a few more things to highlight. So I'm curious for you. So we just started 2025. So like, what are the plans for Frankie and the Studs going forward, and for the Gormandizers?
So for Frankie and the Studs, we actually only released our record on vinyl and CD just because we wanted to keep it old school and like, you want to hear the record, you got to buy it on physical because that's the way it's meant to be heard. But we are going to do a digital release. So probably around like March. We don't have a set date yet, but we will put it out for, all the digital platforms. And then my goal is I just want to tour. So I'm hoping maybe spring, summer, we'll get to tour the record. And then for the Gormandizers, we do have a show coming up. We're playing at the Yamava Casino, and it's like about 2 hours away from LA. But that is going to be on February 2nd. So yeah, the Gormandizers, we're just going to keep on playing, doing our thing. We keep building out the set. The Yamava set, we're doing 3 45-minute long sets, which is actually a lot harder than it sounds because those songs are only like 2 minutes each. So there's we got to pack a lot of songs into those sets.
In between all those sets, you're going to have like 80 songs.
Yeah, seriously. I think we're at like 40 right now.
I was only exaggerating slightly too.
Yeah, 40 songs. Wild. We're looking at some dates in March and April as well, just around LA. So my dream is for us to play in New York. That would be awesome. So hopefully that's on the horizon soon too.
I hope that works out for you as well. That would be awesome to see as well.
Yeah.
All right, so close out this interview. So for everyone watching, so where the best place to find Frankie and the Studs online and the Gormandizers?
So either one, we're both on Instagram, YouTube. I just started a Gormandizers YouTube channel also, so I can start posting all those videos there. Spotify, Apple Music, we're on all of those things. So just come find us.
Very good. I'll even make it easier. I'll leave some links for both bands in the description of this podcast. Please check out and support them. But Frankie, thank you so much for stopping by Super Cool Radio. I had a blast chatting with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was super rad, super fun, super cool.
That's what I go for. So for Frankie Clarke of Frankie and the Studs and the Gormandizers, I'm your host always, Matthew Thomas. Thanks so much for watching and listening to this episode of Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty.